And hello there, it's Dr. Brenda, founder of Gutsy Women Finances Community. So happy you can join us here. We are into Side Hustle September, and I have special guests. Hey, please subscribe below. I almost forgot to tell you that. I'm so excited. Hit subscribe, hit the bell to be notified. All right, Side Hustle September, and I'm with Janet Anderson and Terry Burnap, or Terry Burnap and Janet Anderson, depending on how this goes today. And a disclaimer, Terry and I are former neighbors in Williamsburg, Virginia. We met in 2001. I moved in and had Terry and Rich and these two lovely dogs next to me. And then eventually Terry and Rich had to deal with cat after cat after cat. So we managed to get along quite well, dogs and cats and humans alike. So welcome. And I've met Janet through the course of those years as well. So we're talking about side hustles, and you guys are known as, and it's Two Sisters Treasures Co. And you have an Etsy store. There are tons and tons of stores on Etsy. It's very, very competitive. So I would love for you to back up. Tell us, what encouraged you to start your Etsy store? When did you start it? Give us the background. Why an Etsy store?
Go ahead, sis, because you started.
Go ahead, sis.
Okay. Well, Jan actually, and Jan and I are sisters. I didn't know if you mentioned that or not, but Jan initially years ago had an Etsy shop, and then through some life changes and things like that, the shop stopped. And I guess it was Christmas. She had been visiting me at the time. I lived in Charlestown, West Virginia. Jan's in Kansas City. She had been visiting for Christmas, and I drove back with her so she wouldn't have to ride alone. And she comes up with this idea. She says, I think I'm going to start up Etsy again. And I'm like, really? Do you really think it's worthwhile? And the conversation ensued in the car. And it was on that trip that Two Sisters Treasures was born. And we started shopping immediately. And we started with one shop, and now we have two shops. So that's how it all started.
You've always been into antiquing though, right?
Right. Exactly.
So that's sort of something that you've done just for a hobby.
Right. And we did it so much every time we got together. And when we weren't, we were bursting at the seams with mostly it was depression glass and kitchen items, things like that we collected for ourselves. And so when Jan wanted to start a shop again, I think Jan really wanted to do it more for the income. She was single, living in Kansas City, her own house and everything, and just, could use a little upping her income and all. And I just was like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff, but I couldn't bear to part with it because I love it. So getting extra money for the things I love was very attractive to me. So that's how it started for me. For Jan, wasn't it for you mostly the income? You loved it, but it was more of an income thing. For me, it was like, I can make money selling my stuff and then I could buy more stuff. So that's how it went.
Yeah, originally for me, it was as an income because years ago, I actually had an antique booth first. And with an antique booth, there's the overhead, the booth rent, and then they also take a percentage of all your sales. So you really have to sell a lot. And it was always a profitable month, but negligible. And a lot of the vendors literally lost money every month. And I was like, I'm not into this much work to lose money. So I had mentioned doing it on Etsy and just started doing that and saw that it definitely could be built up to a business. And when Terry and I got started together with it, we were very pleased to just sell a few things each month. And as Terry said, to clear out some of her cabinets in the
Right.
kitchen and stuff like that. And, she quickly saw the business aspect of it and saw that it really had a lot of potential. So
So what year is this?
Was Christmas of,
third, I think it's the third year.
we're in our 4th year.
Yeah,
So
it
was
just,
Christmas of 2019, I think,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
or 2018.
yeah, this started our 4th year.
Yeah,
okay, okay. It feels like it's been around longer than that, but maybe your hobby, it's your hobby that's been around longer than
Yeah.
that.
right.
And so initially you're doing this from 2 different locations.
Initially.
Okay, and how does that work in terms of, well, I want to buy this. No, that's not going to sell. I want to buy this. Well, and how do you, who ships it, who buys it? How do you do that when you're in 2 different locations?
That's an easy one. What we did is Terry and I have always shopped, as she mentioned, for vintage items. And we've literally been doing this for 40 plus years. So that's going to put us in an age bracket there. So once we started this, Terry started selling her things and she started buying some things. I already had plenty of inventory, but it's still way easy to just see something and know you can flip it. So Terry started doing the same thing. So in the shop, anything that she would keep her spreadsheet and her inventory. So if she sold it, she would get the profit from it. If I sold it, I did. And we just kept it like that. And we went into having the 2 shops to start making it easier for taxes to keep up with, rather than having to divvy, okay, a percent of this tax is hers, percent is mine. So to just make it easier, we just started the 2 shops, and little by little, rather than moving everything over, little by little, as things sell, we're going to get it to where the 2 Sisters Co. is 100% just her items, and 2 Sisters Treasures 2 would be 100% my items. But we still shop together. We still talk about it every single day. So it doesn't matter if it was 1 shop or 2, there was never an issue of she can't buy this or I shouldn't buy this. It's just,
It was pretty easy though, because we both love the same kind of stuff.
yeah.
And
Okay.
we both kind of have different eyes about some things too.
Well,
know?
I mean, that's a really smart, the tax reason. Hey, that's a perfect reason to do that. But
Yeah.
like you divvy up, is it partly based on skills? Like, how do your skills complement each other? I mean, you already mentioned Terry's the spreadsheet person, or maybe you both are. I mean, what are your strengths and how do you feed off of that to run a shop together?
Well, Terry has more time. She's retired from her career job. I'm still working at my career job. So she said that she would handle the spreadsheets, because at first we have it on a shared drive. So we were each putting in our stuff. So she had just volunteered to just do that. So that's worked out good, saving me some time. But as far as our strengths, when it's the items that we pick, as Terry had mentioned, we both like similar things, but then we have eyes for different things too. So even though originally we were buying vintage kitchenware that maybe our grandmother had or, older aunts and stuff like that, and we loved it just to have that reminiscence of the past and memories. I'm a sucker for kids' toys. I still do the kitchen glass. We both still do everything. We've evolved to where we do anything we see. And of course, as you know, from being in business, as you go, you learn and grow. And you had mentioned what works, what doesn't work. And, so even if it's something that Terry or I look at individually and would say, we'd never have it in our house, but we know there's somebody out there that's looking for it or would love to find it. And so that's what we do.
So what sorts of things do you have a difficult time getting rid of? Like, oh, you buy it and it's like, maybe it's a keeper. Are there certain things that you just, that they don't make it to the store because you like them too much?
That happens with me a lot. I think that a lot because I still have this uh, coveting, hoarding mentality when it comes, oh, that's so cool. I really want that. But I have to be realistic too. And having just moved, because now I'm in the Kansas City area, Jan was here helping me unpack my kitchen, the things I own. And it was a real moment of truth. Like, you just need to get rid of some stuff. So I'm getting much better at it. Jan's always been better at that than me, but I do find things that I really like. But no, I just know that I'm getting older, Brenda. I just don't have room for all this stuff. Plus, I've moved so many times, more than Jan. It's a real trial packing and unpacking and moving stuff like that. So I don't think either one of us, maybe in the beginning we were tempted to keep stuff, but not anymore. Doing Etsy, we have both been able to feed that, just that desire for shopping that we always loved. But now we can do it for the stuff we love. And like Jan says, we see things sometimes and it's like, I know somebody would love to have that. So we get it. And we can just feed that and shop and then flip it. And it's a lot of fun, I mean, anybody that loves this kind of stuff could probably go out and shop too, but it takes a lot of time to know what to buy, to keep your inventory up, to keep your books, to list it, to research it, especially things that you don't really know for sure what it is. Like one time we found this piece of glass. We were both looking at it. I think it was when we were in Iowa. And it's like, what the heck is this thing? It's unique. We've never seen it. It had embossing on the glass, so it had a name on it. This is something. Turned out after getting it home and researching it, it was a vintage medical inhaler for like asthma or something.
Uh-huh.
It had this long tube on it that looked like an elephant's trunk. It was just like, oh my gosh, can you even imagine? And it had been patented in the 1890s and was made in like 1900. So you find things like that you just think, this is going to be something that somebody wants,
And did somebody want it?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It was like, and then Jan and I are both laughing, like, who would want that? But people do.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it had gone for a medical museum or a display in some fancy doctor's office that has things. And I will add, because I think this is important. Terry mentioned this one from, the turn of the century. Etsy considers you can sell vintage items. I hate to tell everybody this, but vintage is 20 years old and more.
yeah.
So we're all way past vintage here.
Yeah,
apparently.
we've got like, we're going on triple vintage.
Exactly. Antique is 100 years and more. So, so we deal mostly in vintage items because obviously that's easier to find. And so.
Okay. So are you finding most places at antique stores? And what did you do with the pandemic when so many things were closed down? I mean, how did that impact, first of all, where you're finding things, and then secondly, the sales?
During the pandemic, everything was shut down for a very short period. And then things started opening up, but we typically, it could be antique stores. We definitely still go in a lot of antique stores together. It could be yard sales. It could be estate sales. It could be thrift stores. Basically any place that could possibly have vintage items, which people's homes, you know, are a great place. So during the pandemic, the first couple of weeks, maybe a month, I don't remember exactly, you know, even the antique stores, thrift stores, nobody was having estate sales, yard sales, everything was shut down. After that, was shopping a little bit too much because everything else in life was slowed down. So
Things
yeah,
opened
that's
up for Jan in the Midwest earlier than they did for me, because at
Yeah.
that time I was on the East Coast. But
Mhm.
as far as sales during the pandemic, we probably had our best 18 months during the pandemic. It absolutely stunned us.
Wow.
and
Wow.
and that goes back to people couldn't get out and shop.
Right.
So, or they couldn't go out to eat. They couldn't do anything outside. So what do? You sit home and shop on a computer. You can do
Well,
that.
and they weren't commuting, so they saved on all the gas and
Yeah,
transportation and didn't have to buy new outfits. So,
exactly.
hey, yeah.
And you
So,
know, people were at that time homeschooling and stuck at home. So a lot of office supplies, older office supplies, and kids learning toys, books. What were some of the other puzzles? They went through the roof. Jigsaw puzzles. I mean, stuff like that. We couldn't keep it in stock.
Vintage
so,
flashcards, anything
Yeah.
education related. And
okay.
there's a lot of people, could they order something like flashcards or puzzles off Amazon? Absolutely. But as we all know, things today are a lot cheaper, cheaper made, in the quality. These things that we deal in have literally been around generations after generations after generations. So people see a value in that where they know their kids can enjoy it, their grandkids can enjoy it, they can pass it around to nieces, nephews. So it really
It's a
has,
memory they had,
yes,
from something they learned with or played on. And it's all this, when you start getting back before the 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when you're looking at glass, toys, games, things like that, were made in the USA.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore.
Right, right.
So,
And so you're able to sort of identify these shifts. So then that's changing your shopping as well.
right.
absolutely.
Can you give us a sense of the profitability of your stores?
We try, it really depends on each item. And of course, year to year, it changes as far as, our sales, what's going on in the economy, everything. Like right now, the economy's bad, gas is high. People don't have the money to spend on extra things. And even if they do, they're really pulling back and saying, well, let's just see how the market goes. So it all depends. But as far as the items, we really try, again, it depends on what the item is and how much, the cost is. If it's something that, let's say, costs us $20 or $30 to acquire, we may want to say we want to double our money. And that's sales wise, that's not after the fees and stuff. If it's something small, let's say a small toy or something, we can expect to bring in 4 times, 5 times,
Right.
sometimes more than that. It just really depends. And that brings me to a point that I think is important, because with Etsy, as with any business, there's fees. Etsy takes care of all that. We have to then pay. So we pay 15%, whatever we sell. Etsy gets right off the top. Then if they do any marketing on the side, sis, is it 12%?
I think it's 12. Yeah.
So in other words, what they do, and we have no choice of it. A couple of years ago, we had a choice whether we wanted to opt in for that. We would not opt in. We don't need Etsy's advertisement. We've done very well. We've been blessed beyond measure on our own. But what Etsy considers their advertising, if, let's say, if you went out onto the internet and looked for, I'll just say, some Fisher Price toy, and it led you to our shop. Well, let's say you decided not to buy that, but oh, you looked at our other items and you saw a piece of kitchen glass that you wanted. You buy it. We're paid an advertising fee. They didn't advertise our glass, but because they came to the shop through an advertisement for something else, we have to pay that. So that's the downside. They also charge a fee on shipping, which we think, if a customer pays, let's say, $10.50 on shipping, and that goes for postage, Etsy then charges a fee on that. And it's like postage is out the door. So there's a lot of ins and outs, and people, may say, oh, they're doing really well, but there's all these other things that you have to take into consideration that do take up time, cost, and stuff like that. So.
Right. I mean, I've got an Etsy store. I
Oh,
don't,
good.
I don't promote it and really don't make sales. It's printable, so people can just hit the print button and get access to it.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with some of those. Every platform has a
Absolutely.
variety of fees that generally the customer is not aware of.
Right.
So
Right.
that's always a challenge. So that's a profitability based on an item and when, but in terms of your income, how much money you made.
Well, for me, it's different for both of us. We both have done about the same in the shop each year. This year's been a little slower for me because, the last year, because I was in the middle of a move and all that. So I've had much lower sales, but, for me, it became extra pocket money for when I had retired. Because when I retired, I didn't take my Social Security right away. So I was just looking for a little extra spending money. And, Brenda, honestly, it worked out much better than I had expected. It was savings that Rich and I were able to use for vacations or things around the house. And it covered those kind of things. And for Jan, I mean, she could tell you more than that. It has enabled her to do a lot of remodeling and renovations and stuff to her home. So, and, as a single woman, she's done pretty darn good with her home. And a lot of that is because of Etsy. It's not something that I would, I like, if I was living by myself, I would have to hustle a whole lot more on Etsy to make a living off of it. But as a retired person who's now also getting my Social Security, it's a nice little extra chunk on top of it. Because let's face it, Social Security isn't going to carry you. And I haven't had to dip into any of, my investments or anything like that. I still use it for vacations, and I've used it a lot in the new house, getting things for the new house. So it's fun. It's profitable enough that we had to pay taxes and had to, like Jan said, prompted us. The first year we did so much better than we thought. I think the threshold was $20,000 at the time. It's much lower now. But if you made more than that, you had to, I don't know what the form number is that you get from
File.
Yeah, so now you got to file. I thought it was all going to be, free money for me because I didn't think we'd do that much. And it quickly, so the second year, Jan, who is in finance, by profession, is like, we need to get 2 shops and try to split this up. So, we're carrying the load equally. And even then, we both surpassed what we thought we would do. So it's done very well for us.
It's interesting, Brenda, at first, when we first started, Terry was so excited to break $100. And I'm like, you ain't seen nothing yet, sister. And so the first month, of course, when you first get started, you're having to get your name out there and you're having to get reviews so that people trust you instead of these newbies. It's like, are they trustworthy? Will I get my item? So we worked at getting our name out there and building up reviews first. And then when it hit $300, like the second month, because we started mid-month, and she was like, whoa.
I was very easily excited.
And I'm like, hang on, hang on. So when we got to, 1,000, 1,200 a month, during peak times, 2,400 a month or whatever, she was seeing, oh yeah, we're going to have to keep, very diligent records, which we always did, but she saw why at this point. And it's just, it's just been good. And like Terry had said, for me being single, just to be able to, I bought a home that's 1986 and started fixing it up, but, and I still put money into it, from Etsy, but I wanted to start putting money against the principal. So it has definitely allowed me to make some major payments on the house and, get things so that I can retire and be comfortable.
That it, can you back up a bit? Because let's say somebody is starting out there brand new. So I mean, I've done this and I know that sometimes I've had friends or family buy something or ask people to purchase, to leave me a review. I'll contact them directly because without the reviews and with very few sales, it is so hard to get traction. So can you tell us about what your strategy was to get those good reviews at the initial setup phase?
Sell a lot. And what we do and we still do this to this day, we send just a little packing slip, if you will, with every sale that we make, every package that is shipped out. We send a packing slip, and in there we have just a message to the customer, thanking them for their purchase, and asking them to please take a moment to review, to leave us a review. And we've changed that message over time. Early on, I think it may have said something about, it would help us, build trust with the customers, just like you trusted us, but so that other customers know what your experience was like. So honestly, most customers will not take the time to review. And I get that because let's say if I was buying something off Amazon or some other website, I rarely go out there and review a product. It takes time. It's not even so much of the time because we all have 30 seconds to do that. It's more of out of sight, out of mind, and we're busy. And you get busy with something like that and you just forget. So we understand that. So it took a while, but once you get 20, 30 reviews, and we strive for 5 out of 5 stars, and we tell our customer that, and we tell them why we're striving for that, because our item is as described, our item is as it's pictured, and everything we sell, we take pictures of it and put it out there. And so we ask them to review us based on the item being as described, as pictured, and shipping on time. And, and we pack things very well, because I'm going to tell you, was it during the pandemic, sis, or right after that? The post office is still, just like every other business, so shorthanded.
Yeah.
They broke more things probably in 6 months than they had in all the years Terry and I had been doing this, and I had been doing it previously, and they will not pay. They used to pay right away because it's insured. They used to pay the claim right away. They will not now. They just don't. And the post office, I was lucky enough to get somebody at the post office on the customer service side, at the 800 number to tell me what was going on. And they said, with the new postmaster, we are instructed the very first thing, you send out a letter denying the claim.
Mm,
You don't even look at it. You just send the
wow.
letter, and you
Wow.
force the customer to jump through all the hoops and do all this. And then they still will not pay it.
Well, they've joined the insurance company, haven't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
And
just bad.
and keep in mind that a lot of what we do sell is glass.
Yes.
And so we are just we pay so much attention to how we wrap things. And I learned a lot from Jan about that, about, how to wrap glasses and then tape the wrapped glasses together so they're not rattling around in there. And what I'm very proud of the fact that in most of our reviews, one of the biggest praises we get is, wow, never seen anything wrapped so well. Because one of the things when in the beginning, when I was on a lot of Facebook groups that sold things or purchased vintage items, and they would say, can you believe how this was wrapped? That was one of the hugest complaints. And it would come broken. So we try really, really hard, and we have nice little stickers that we put on there. It says thank you, for supporting our small business. We try to make it a little extra special, not just a brown box that comes in the mail.
Right, right.
We stick our business card in every single one, and
So,
We want it packed well. I'm sorry. We want it packed well and for the customer to get it because they wanted it. And
Right.
we know how it is in our own collection. If we had ordered something or saw it in an antique store and the woman taking it to the counter dropped it, we would have been devastated. So we want to make sure they
Yeah.
get their treasure.
yeah.
Right.
So, I looked at the number of sales for each of your stores right before. Have you looked at them lately?
They're
No.
pretty even.
Oh, it's scary. 2,287, 2,283.
Oh my.
Four. There's a difference of four, and I can't tell you
Wow.
which one has the lead now, but that
Wow.
is astonishing.
Yes.
Both selling at about the same pace.
Yeah.
That is surprising.
What is the thing that you thought, oh, this is a sure winner, this is going to sell, and it just didn't work out?
Oh wow. Um,
That's a tough question. I'm not sure either.
I'm
Maybe
trying to
there
think
is
of what I
one.
have in the shop that's been in there forever.
I can tell you something while Terry's thinking. Depression glass, it's a good seller. I sold 3 cherry blossom plates just an hour ago. They've been out there for a long time. There's things in the market that, let's say 6 years ago, you could not find cherry blossom. That's one of the things I collected. I had a very large cherry blossom collection. And every time there was times that I went on vacation, and the vacation literally for 7 or 10 days was just driving around in different states from one antique store to another, and not just hunting that, but just other things. And so many things like that where it sells really good. And if you think about it, years ago, you couldn't give it away. Originally, depression glass was given away in washing powder, in oatmeal containers at the gas station, whatever, to entice people to buy from them, hence it being through the depression and called depression glass. So then you had that. Well, people grew up seeing their mother having it. They don't want it in their house. They've seen it all their life. So the sales go down. And then, or the marketability. And then, the next generation comes, their grandmother had it. It's a great memory for them.
Uh-huh.
So it's really popular again. So here lately, it's been through one of those down cycles again. So it sits there for a long time, but even things that we've had in our shop, maybe a year and a half, it's things that we know will sell eventually. again, it depends on the item because there's some things that there's a huge market for. Other things, the market is very, very small, but somebody wants it and is looking for it. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of when. So,
One of the things that surprised me when Jan was selling, and then when she stopped and we both got into it, I got into it too, because it's Tupperware. Who knew? But after I started selling, I went out to Tupperware's website, and new Tupperware is expensive. It's really expensive, and it's so much better than the plastic containers and stuff that you get in the store. And it's getting harder to find because people are kind of snatching it up, but that has been a really good seller for us.
it's funny,
Um,
Brenda, when I was selling before, and I would buy Tupperware, or Terry and I would be out shopping. She was just like, who would want that stuff? And like she said, then she saw my sales in it and she started buying it. So it's just, we do learn as we go along.
Yeah.
And there's things that I've learned from Sis that, she's gotten, and she knows more about, I would say more about vintage glass as a whole. So I've learned things from her, and she's learned things from me about different items, and it just works. And for us to be always have been so close, and like she said, now she's living in Kansas City. This is the first time we've lived in the same state in like 40 plus years.
yeah.
So even though we did this anytime we were together, this is just like, wow, does it get
Now
any
it's
better?
really dangerous because we can go out any weekend, and
Yeah.
I kind of got myself in trouble a little bit when I was staying at her house while our house was being built, and started taking up some of her warehousing space because I was shopping too much. I'm like, this is nuts. But
And during the pandemic, let me just say this, says during the pandemic, like I said, I was shopping a lot because there was nothing else to do. My inventory got a little out of control. Did I mention a little? Okay, a lot, like crazy out of control. So when Terry wanted to start in this, I kept telling her, manage your inventory, manage your inventory, because I was speaking to myself. And that's my goal right now, is to keep whittling down, because I do have far too much,
Yeah.
but it's
there's
hard
another
not to buy
reason.
it.
There's another reason for that that I have discovered. The the kind of things that you can find in different parts of the country vary greatly. The Midwest is like a treasure trove for vintage. Now, you grew up in Wisconsin, Brenda,
Right.
okay? So you know the small towns, families aren't just constantly getting new stuff all the time. And as older generations go on and estate sales and more things show up in antique stores, I could not believe when I would visit Jan how much more lucrative it was that I could find like Libby glassware from the 60s and 70s, games. That was the big one for me. In the East Coast, Northern Virginia area, where I was living, Maryland, you rarely could find an old game. And by old games, I'm talking about things like Password, Tinker Toys, Lincoln Logs, old Monopoly games, old Scrabble games, old dominoes. You didn't find those, but out here, you can really find them a lot. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's funny because I've got a little niece and nephew, and they're playing with games that we had, the Weeble Wobbles, the farm, the farm set. They've got the horse, and everything is still in
Ooh.
really good shape, and the little tractors. And it's like, wow, that's stuff that I played with, and now the little ones are playing with. And maybe I should tell my mom, I might want to put those aside, huh?
Really, Fisher
Yeah.
Price is big, right, sis? Real big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to my point earlier about people can buy a lot of this type of stuff on anywhere, Walmart, Target, Amazon, the quality's not there. By the time let's say if it's a toy, the child plays with it before they've even outgrown the toy, it's broken and thrown in the trash. But yet you have, let's say, the Fisher Price or Little Tykes or, other ones that they just last and last and literally generation after generation. So it's really neat.
So this is also to me, like I talk about matching your personality to your side hustle. So for me, I hate shopping, so I could never do what you guys do, but I like other things like, painting rocking chairs and all kinds of painting stuff. So it's really a matter of just, getting that good fit for something you already enjoy doing. We are like running out of time. I want you both to give me one big piece of advice for you. We've got listeners, and by the way, I'm going to put the links to your stores in the description here, so you can just go visit Two Sisters Treasures Co. and Two Sisters Treasure Co. 2.
No, just Treasures too.
Treasures 2. Okay, so we're going to put those links in the description. One word of advice from each of you. Somebody's interested in doing something along the lines of what you're doing. What's your biggest piece of advice for them?
Mine would be to start slow. Don't think that you can just go out and buy everything. You're going to learn as you go, and you're going to learn as you grow, and to stick with it.
Yeah. I think it goes back to something you said a few minutes ago too, Brenda, about matching it to your personality. Not too long ago, it was in the news in the last year about, oh gosh, save that old Corningware. It's worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And I don't know where and how that got started, but people kind of thought, well, I'm going to go out and buy up all this Corningware and then sell it for thousands. It's not worth thousands.
No.
So match it to your personality. Like you said, do something you love. I worked for, since I was a teenager, and I've never done anything that I've enjoyed as much as this, because it was a passion of mine beforehand. And I love being able to do it. So like Jan says, start slow, but don't go into it just because you think you're going to make a killing.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. And if you love it, you're going to work harder at it and put more into it, and I think that's just what's really important. Love what you do.
Well,
and you'll be happy with what you make out of it.
That is terrific advice. I'm going to close the show. You guys hang on here. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this September Side Hustle September. Join us in Gutsy Women Finances community. I've got some spectacular workshops coming up, and every day we're going to give you some tips and resources on how you can get a profitable side hustle. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, Janet and Terry. Oh, it's been a pleasure having you guys on here, and good luck. Happy shopping.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
All right. Bye all.